Welcome back everyone to a brand new episode. This week we're gonna talk about the lore of the Shroud, the main antagonist of Enshrouded. The Shroud came from the elixir. Both viewed as a cure and also a curse, the Shroud came from the wanting of mankind to possess the elixir. In the process, they open the elixir wells, which indirectly unleash the Shroud upon Embervale. These are the main events that release the Shroud into the game, but what is the Shroud in reality? So that's what we're gonna talk about today. What does the Shroud represent? What is its possible origin? And how did humankind and the ancients try to fight it? Stating one of the notes that we find from Balthazar, the blue jays no longer drift so carelessly through the air. Something is changing. A nebula flows towards us, spring from the abyss like a tidal wave. They call it the Shroud. It carries disease and suffering, changes soil and people. I must understand this madness, but discovering a remedy will be difficult. Its supply lines cut off by the soldiers. It's pretty clear by these notes, and also by others, like the Spore and Sickness note, also from Balthazar, that the Shroud is some kind of fungi spore that spreads and changes everything it touches. It seems that while perforating the ground in search of the elixir, what humanity actually found out was these spores, and these start releasing to the world, as fungi tend to do. Although my purpose here is not to do any biology class or try to fix this to the common world or the normal world, spores are in reality the main reproductive way of fungi. Spores tend to be produced by two means, indirectly or directly, by the fungi itself. So now that we can maybe assess or maybe conclude that the Shroud itself is basically spores of some kind of fungi infection, we can now understand how this affects people and soil. Due to the nature of spores of fungi, these tend to spread very rapidly if not put on check or on control. In the real world, spores tend to not survive a lot if they don't have the right conditions of temperature and humidity. And that is somehow recreated in the game, where the flame, which our flameborns are able to wield, puts at bay the advance of the Shroud. In the real world, if the conditions are not properly for the propagation of fungi, normally low humidities and high temperatures, fungi don't tend to spread as much and spores tend to die. But it seems that in Embervale, these spores are somehow magical. Most probably made magical by the elixir liquid that they themselves are in contact with. So the Shroud is in reality a fungi magical infection that will spread. If unchecked by any means necessary, it will spread to the entire world of Embervale. Also, something very interesting on the game design of the game is that zones that are typically not well lit, like caves and also valleys in the game, are the ones that tend to be infected by these spores. It seems that although they are airborne, they cannot reach high locations because these locations tend to somehow have better sunlight and also be warmed enough to not create these kinds of spores. Also, there are exceptions to this, but we are talking about the game, so we expect that things are not like real world, but it's a pretty interesting explanation. And making this comparison is very interesting to understand the lore of the game and the origin of the spores. Somehow, and some way, it's believed that the mysterious wanderer that first showed the elixir to the humans had knowledge about this, because that elixir needed to come from somewhere else. Or possibly from another entire civilization that had already succumbed to the spread of these fungi. So guys, this is it for today. I intend to start doing these lore videos, if you guys like it, of course. It will always depend on the reception people have to these kinds of things, but I thought interesting to start this kind of videos about the lore of Enshrouded, since we are already playing the game, and we want to know more about the game. Enshrouded is becoming a very promising game. We have been playing it in our Let's Plays that you can see right here. And of course, I'm gonna start these new lore chapters about the game. I thought to focus first on the biggest antagonist of the game, which is the Shroud itself, and then progress with all other things related to the lore. Talk about each of the NPCs that we can find in the game, for example, Balthazar the Alchemist and other ones. Also about royalty, about the war itself, and all things related to Enshrouded. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you saw the video until the end, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It would mean the world to me. And guys, I'll see you again on the next one.